Hello, my most amazing artists. Let's take one look back at James Rizzi's birds. We are going to color them today. In fact, we will paint them. Look at the colors he uses and how he sometimes blends colors. I'm going to show you a wet and wet watercolor technique that we can use. Alright, so we are going to be using watercolor paint. We have not used this paint this year. It comes in a small tray. And the paint is super concentrated. That's why it's only in a tiny little well. So what you're going to do, you have a huge cup of water. You need to wake up your watercolor paint. So you're going to take your paintbrush, wet your paintbrush. And then you are going to wake up little watercolor. Rinse your brush out. Wake up little watercolor. You're just adding some water into each well. Wake up little watercolor. And that is going to wake up your paint so that it will paint for you. Wake up, green. Good morning. How are you? Wake up, blue. And you guys will be sharing these, so y'all can take turns waking up each color. Wake up, purple. And wake up, brown. You'll notice I took black out of your watercolor tray. That's because black is not a color. Did y'all know that? Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, purple, brown. They are all colors. And you can actually make brown with these other colors, but I do have brown here for you. So now let's take a look at this technique. What you're going to do is you're going to take a big brush and get clean water on it, and you are going to wet a small area of your paper. So I'm going to wet the body of that bird, and then you're going to take your smaller brush and you are going to roll your brush like a ballerina on its tippy toes and just tap. And you can see the color spreads where the water is wet. I can rinse out my brush and I can roll my brush like a ballerina on its tippy toes. We never scoop the paint out. We don't need to do that. We just need to roll it. And I can tap it down. And wherever I put that water, the paint will spread to those places. So now I'm going to wet with clean water the beak. You can see it's also moving. So I really don't even need to paint that anymore. I might wet down here where there's white. It's really magical. You're going to love this technique. Okay, so now I have my big bird over here. And let's see, I'm just going to wet his head. I'm not going to wet his eyes because I want his eyes to stay white. So I'm being careful the parts that I put water on. Okay, so I have his head wet, and I think I'm going to make his beak orange. Look at that. It just goes everywhere. It went all the way up to his head. And I think I'm going to make his head yellow. So I'm going to add the yellow, and that's going to push the orange back down. It's a really neat watercolor technique. When you take your paper to the drying rack, you'll have to be super careful because you have a lot of water on your paper. So now I'm going to take my big brush again, and I am going to wet this bird's body. There we go. And I may just add a few little dots of yellow. And then what if I added a little dot of red near his wings? What would that do? That looks pretty cool. I may add some more yellow, or I may add some more orange. If I want my yellow darker or brighter, I'm going to add more of it. Notice I am not scooping the paint. That's important. Your paint rolls like a ballerina. Okay, I'm going to finish this and I will show you what it looks like. So one thing that you'll notice that I'm doing is I am using colors that are next to each other on my paint tray. I'm not jumping from purple to yellow to orange to green. I'm trying to pick about 3 colors that are right next to each other and use those colors. Those are called analogous colors. When colors are next to each other on the color wheel, they're called analogous, and when they mix, they look good together. If you mix purple and yellow, you're going to find something out. You're going to make brown. So it's important that if you don't want to make brown all over your paper, you look for colors that are next to each other in this paint tray. On my birds, I did red, orange, and yellow because those three colors are next to each other. And in my background, I did green, blue, and purple. So keep that in mind. You could do yellow and green together. You could do yellow, blue, and green. So just kind of keep that in mind. I also tried to save right around my bird for last so that my green did not mix into my bird. So now I'm going to carefully go in with my smaller brush around my bird and just kind of pull that paint right there around my bird so that that paint, so I don't leave any white spaces. If I wanted a darker color there, I could add the paint. The oil pastel should resist the paint from going in. It kind of creates a barrier. And anywhere that I want darker colors, I can just add paint without adding any water. So I can still go back in and add little dots of paint, and I will get darker colors. All right, have fun. When you take these to the drying rack, be super careful because look at all this water. You may actually want to pick up your whole messy mat and hold it like a lunchroom tray. That will ensure that paint does not drip and run everywhere. These need to fully dry before you actually lift them up.